Oriire funowo. Good tidings to you. I pray that you are feeling awake, aware, and elevated in mind, body, and spirit, wherever you are, and whatever may be happening around you. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. I'm Baba Umar, Oluranse Emese, voice of the MSA, member of the Isoro Traditional Council of Chiefs in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, Oluwo of the House of Umar, and Babalao of Ile-Ife Orisha, the House of the Mysteries of the Orishas. Oriire, abundant blessings to our Egbe, our online community of subscribers that continues to grow thanks to you. Thank you for joining us for another lesson. Remember, as a member of our YouTube Egbe, which is over 700 now, you can support each other's spiritual journey by posting your questions and uplifting comments in the comment section below. You can also email me using the link in the description below if you need to contact me on a more personal matter. Also, check the community section of this channel for periodic messages from me. I think you can only check the community section on your computer. It's not available through your iPhone or your phone and your pad. So make sure that you go on the computer every now and then and check the community section for special messages from me. If you're new to these videos, we invite you to go ahead and click the subscribe and notification buttons and share this resource with your family, friends, associates. You never know whose life you may be able to change by the simple act of sharing. Homage to the one who sends and to those who are sent. Homage to Orisha and Egun. Our topic for this video is Ifa, the spiritual tradition of Orisha and Ancestor Worship. This is Ifa and the Orisha, part 6 of this series. We're talking about Isopo, I-S-O-P-O. Isopo is a Yoruba term that means connectivity, the state or extent of being connected or interconnected. Things that are connected have access to and the possibility of communication with each other. Things that are connected are linked or related to each other. Things that are in a state of Isopo feel an affinity with each other. Look at this word, affinity. Affinity is a spontaneous or natural liking, empathy, or attraction for someone or something. We can also experience that sense of Isopo or affinity with thoughts and ideas. Most, if not all of you, are listening to this video lesson because you have a sense of Isopo, connectivity, affinity with the wisdom of the Ifa spiritual tradition of Orisha and Ancestor Worship. We should always stop and think about the things we believe, why we believe them, and how we understand or perceive the things that we believe. Do I feel a sense of Isopo to the things I believe, or are they just conditioned ideas, habits of thinking? To emancipate ourselves from the hypnosis of social conditioning, we've spoken about that in previous videos. By the way, let me interject. You can, go through the playlist and you see a topic, in the video list and that appeals to you, and you go ahead and watch it, no problem. But I also recommend that you go through the playlist sequentially. There is an evolution of knowledge taking place in the playlist. And so if you go back to the very first video and work your way through sequentially, you're going to learn a lot more from each video, because each video is based on something that I've said in previous videos. It's a constant expansion and evolution of the wisdom. So I recommend that you do both. Go and find video that your topic appeals to you and look at that, but then also set a process of going sequentially through the playlist. Okay. So, to emancipate ourselves from the hypnosis of social conditioning and to expand into our full power and potential, we must utilize discernment, as we did in the series on Ifa and white supremacy racism. To alter our way of looking at ourselves, the world, and the entire creation, discernment is critical. The Eurocentric Worldview, rooted in the Newtonian scientific perspective, would have us believe that the world, this reality, is a machine-like thing composed of separate parts or components. But our ancestors developed an indigenous worldview that sustained them for thousands of years before the Western worldview of the Oyinbo was even conceived. Our ancestors understood the world to be a single living organism, no part or aspect truly separate from another. The Oyinbo Eurocentric Worldview pursued understanding as or by analyzing and labeling component parts of the world as separate things. The indigenous worldview of our ancestors sought to understand all aspects of the world as interrelated, interdependent, and interconnected elements of a single essence, a single entity. At the center of the indigenous worldview is the notion of Isopo, or connectivity. This is one of the reasons why the 5-part mini-series that we did on Ifa and white supremacy racism was important for us to explore prior to getting to this particular lesson, because it raised certain issues that are relevant to what we're saying here. In the Ifa history of the beginning, we say there was nothing but Oro, the undifferentiated source energy of creation, the realm of infinite possibility. The Oro then called into existence the law of duality, polarity. It differentiated itself into the Ashe, which is the material of infinite manifestation. And the Ashe became self-aware, conscious. It became universal consciousness, one mind. This sentient, energetic essence, I use that expression, I coined that expression, and I use capital S, capital E, the C, as a way of shortening that expression when we talk about it. So this sentient, energetic essence, the C, recognized itself as the realm of infinite manifestation possibility and determined the idea of experiencing the fullness of its potential. That determined idea ignited the creative impulse and set into motion the phenomenon of the entire cosmic reality, including you and me. The indigenous worldview gives rise to a question. Did the sea, sentient, energetic essence, subdivide itself into various parts to manifest creation? To me, that assumption is not reasonable. To divide means to separate or be separated into parts, or to form a boundary between two or more things. If the goal of the sea and the purpose of creation were for the sea, the sentient energetic essence that we call Olofi-dumare, to experience the fullness of the realm of infinite possibility, the fullness of its own potential, then separation or separateness would be contrary to that purpose. There is, however, another perspective that we can take. That is, that the sea, Olofi-dumare, decided to express itself in a multiplicity of forms, thereby maintaining its essential unity, while at the same time creating the possibility of having a multiplicity of experiences. Now, in the Ifa spiritual tradition of Orisa and Ancestor Worship, we call the originating essence of creation Oro, O-R-O. The energetic essence of manifestation is the Ashe, and we call the sentient energetic essence of consciousness Olofi-dumare. These two perspectives, the subdividing of the sea, the Oyinbo, Eurocentric Worldview, versus the expressing of the sea through a multiplicity of forms, the Indigenous Afrocentric Worldview, lead to two very different ways of being in the world, different ways of interacting with all of its entities and forms. In a world where everything is viewed as separate, there is the inevitability of competition, hierarchy, conflict, domination, hatred, and war. It's a given. In a world where everything is viewed as one thing, where everything is the sea, expressing and experiencing itself through a multiplicity of forms, there is the inevitability of a familial attitude towards everything, a sense of unity, mutual acceptance, harmony, love, grace. There is the awareness of interrelatedness, interconnectedness, and interdependence. So ask yourself, are the material elements, the forces of nature, the manifestations of the vegetal realm, the manifestations of the animal and human realms separate, independent things, or are they all expressions of the same thing? The worldview that you choose to believe will lead to very different paths and ways of being in the world. If you think they are truly separate things, separate from us, then any attempt to influence the material elements, the forces of nature, the plants, the animals, and even other human beings must be by external, physical, and mechanical means. If, on the other hand, everything is really and truly one thing, then we are all connected. Everything is connected on an energetic level, and therefore everything is influencing and being influenced by everything else all the time, in both seen and unseen ways, through material and immaterial channels. This is the law of Isopo, and the source of spiritual power, psychic abilities, and what some would call magic. So this latter view is the perspective of our ancient indigenous ancestors and the worldview of Ifa. the Ashe, Olodumare, Olofi-dumare, Ori, Egun, Orisha, Imoles, the cosmos with its planets, galaxies, and stars, the plants, the trees, the insects, the animals, the rivers, the ocean, the mountains, the stones, the elements of earth, air, fire, water, metal, and wood, the forces of nature. These are all one thing. They're not separate things, but expressions of the sea seeking to experience the fullness of its potential. What this means is that each of us can influence any and every aspect of the creation through physical, spiritual, metaphysical, and unseen means. What it means is that we each are, in every moment, influencing the world that we experience. It means that the sea, God by any other name, is present in everything, and yes, present in each of us. When the Ashe became self-aware, its first thought was, I am. This is one of the shared unifying experiences of everything. Everything is an expression of the sea, and therefore shares its consciousness, its awareness to some degree. The first sense of everything is the first thought of Olodumare, Emene, I am. Whatever follows I am becomes your and my reality. When you and I utter the words, I am, we are stepping into our role as Eleda, creator. At first, in our earliest understanding of the Ifa spiritual tradition of Orisa and Ancestor Worship, we naturally tend to think of Olodumare and the Orisha as entities that are separate from us and that exist, outside of ourselves. But the real empowerment potential of the Ifa spiritual tradition comes when we begin to understand our world from the perspective of Isopo and realize that Olodumare is expressing itself through each of us, and that the Orisha are sentient, energetic entities that dwell within us, and that they are responsible and responsive to our own consciousness, awareness, and thoughts, which is why we say, Bienian Kosi, Orisha Kosi, no humanity, no divinity. Think about that. I hope you'll reflect on this message and share your thoughts and questions with me for our future posts on this topic. We'll continue along this line, building on the wisdom that we've shared in the past and seeking our guidance from our Oriire as to what it is that we'll present in the future. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Let me remind you again to check the community section of the channel on your computer, and I've invited you to participate in what we call the Good Condition Mission by making a commitment to invite one person a week to visit and subscribe to our channel. That's part of this journey that you're taking with me. Okay? We want to do our part in fulfilling the contract, the sacred agreement that we have with Olodumare to bring about the good condition for every human being. And as I said in the post on the community section, how can we do that unless each of us is willing to do our part in helping people to come into a different understanding of the world? Many of the people that you and I have contact with are victims of the hypnosis of social conditioning, which not only originates in the West, but has continued to spread its venom around the world, its misconceptions around the world, its negative influence around the world. So whoever it is that you know, wherever it is that they came up, especially if they've come up in the West, they can't escape the hypnosis of social conditioning unless they know that there's a different way of thinking about the world. You and I have the opportunity of providing them with a way of looking at the world differently than that Eurocentric or Oyinbo worldview. So I hope that you'll join me in the Good Condition mission. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Ki Olofi-dumare Orisha ati egun fifuneni, itona imoye ati opo ire. May Olofi-dumare Orisha and Egun bestow on you guidance, wisdom, and abundant blessings. Ifo kanbele, peace of mind from Olofi-dumare. Ajolo, Ajobo. We go out together, we return together. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo.